Thank you. The charter states that the town council is to run 2 public forums during the year, one in the spring for finances, to discuss the town's finances, and one in the fall to discuss the delivery of services. So tonight, March 22nd, 2023, we will have our spring forum. Will be conducted by our town manager, Tony Marino, and I'm sure our CFO, Dylan Cook, will also have a presentation. So I will hand it over to town manager, Tony Marino.
Thank you. It's probably not going to be that exciting, but thank you. First thing, if you can just go to the next slide. Thank you. I want to start off this year. One of the things we worked on and one of the things the council really pushed me to do was to put together a 5-year capital plan. Sure, we've had one in the past, but we wanted to sort of do an all-encompassing capital plan. And obviously this year now we're proud to present the 5-year capital plan. This got sent out to the council, and as of this meeting, it is up and available on our website as well under the town manager's page, so you can go and look at it. I'm going to do a brief overview of it, but there's a included with this is a capital plan message that goes on. It comes from the town manager's office. There's a 3-page capital plan that breaks out the next 5 years and some funding sources, and then behind that there'll be a detailed project breakdown that the department heads submitted, as well as a list from DPW with regard to roadways they're going to do in this coming fiscal year and some sidewalk work as well. This plan was developed together with the subcommittee of the council, the Economic Development and Capital Assets Committee. We also have projects we're going to add to this, because anybody that's been paying attention, we hired a company called Brightly, which was formerly known as School Dude, to do a facilities needs assessment on all of our school and town buildings. They are working on that now. We anticipate it'll be done in during the summer months this year. And once we get that, we'll be incorporating the list of work that they suggest out of that capital plan. It'll be for the next 25 years, but they'll have first 5-year look and recommendations of what needs to be done in the next 5 years, so we'll incorporate that in as well. And then along with that, we're looking at the infrastructure for the utilities department with the water. We're taking a look at all the water mains, grading them, making sure we know which water mains need to be done, and then eventually we'll formulate a capital plan for that as well. Some of the larger things that we'll address during this capital plan, we talk about the free cash benefit. One of the things, one of the goals I have, and I've been honest with the council about this, is to try to bump that free cash number up. Now we certify anywhere from 1.2 to 1.6 in free cash. My goal would be long-term to get that number up to around $3 million, and then we could earmark $1 million a year to fund the capital plan, and that would be monies that we could allot for that. Some of the things we're looking to do this year is some new crosswalks on Pleasant Street in the general area of Tileston Street and on Revere Street. They'll cost approximately $12,000. Many residents have asked for additional striping for crosswalks on Revere Street. We're not going to cut the curb cuts in because we're going to do work there as well as we repave, but we're going to do some striping there. And then we've got an ADA compliant crosswalks going to go in at Winthrop, Pleasant, and Washington Street, approximately $18,000. The other thing this capital plan does is talks about some of the projects that we have coming up. Like, we've got larger infrastructure things that we have to do. One, as we all know, is we're working on, potentially, and the council president talked about this during the State of the Town address, is the new fire station. That could be upwards of approximately between $30 and $40 million, so that's coming down the pike. As well as, we've got a stormwater runoff project that Director Caller has told us, could cost upwards of $20 million in the Winthrop Center area. And we also got ongoing investment in our water system, which won't hit the tax rate, but it'll hit your, water rate. So, some of the funding sources we're going to use for this capital plan, we've got obviously free cash I talked about. We've got funds in the Capital Stabilization Fund, which we've used in the past, and then we fund capital stabilization with free cash every year. Enterprise funds in the water department via retained earnings. We've got the Waterways Fund, and we've also got what we haven't hit in a while, but we're going to apply this year is Winthrop is a green community. So being part of the green community allows us to have access to grants every year. We haven't applied for one since 2017, but we've put all the required data that we have to do for our energy usage in, and we're on track to put an application in this spring, and we're going to put in for a $500,000 grant to do some improvements at the schools for rooftop units, DPW building, and the police station. And like I said, the capital, if you want to scroll through, Lisa, if you don't mind, just, this is what the capital plan will look like. Obviously, it's very small print, so that's why if you want, there's copies over there if anybody wants to see it, but it's also available on the website where you can zoom in. You can scroll through, there's page 2 there, gets in equipment, and then here's the funding sources, all color coordinated, tells you where the money's gonna come from in any given year. First column there with the numbers in it is a cumulative column of the 5 years. And then, this year, for example, if we were to do everything, there'd be $2 million on there. What this capital plan doesn't have now, but will when we put the budget together, is a line for a town manager recommended for their FY24. So that number will drop down, and we'll be doing a portion of that capital, but the goal of this was to show you that even though we're not gonna do all the work, this is what the capital needs of the town are. So we wanna be transparent and let everybody know, we may not have all the money to do it, but we are identifying things that have to get done and prioritizing and making a plan to get there. And if you can go to the next slide. Now we're gonna jump into the budget process. As the council president said, we'll be submitting the budget on May 2nd to the council. The finance committee will start meeting with the department heads on April 13th with a draft version of that budget. And we're working on finalizing that budget now with the department heads. As I stated earlier in my town manager report, we did present what I'm gonna call the base budget document to the school committee and the finance committee. We're working closely with Lisa Howard to finalize that, as the schools obviously are a large part of our budget. And this budget will be in the format of what's called the Government Finance Officers Association, or otherwise known as the GFOA format. Dylan will get into that a little later about what that entails. And as I said, the draft of the budget will be available on April 13th, and the finance committee, I talked about that, sorry. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is the base budget document. This highlights, essentially it puts the school and the town up there as 2 columns. What we've done in the past here is we've, always given the school an X number of dollars. Last year, you can see we gave them $23,797,750. And, what wasn't shown there is that all of the school's bills for as far as, health insurance and building insurance, retiree debt, all of that, retirement, everything was paid for out of the town side. So we had, accumulated those costs on our side to the tune of, $30,784,293. What this budget does is it puts those expenses back on the school side. So you get an accurate picture of exactly what the school system's costing. So now, and this percentage was pretty close to what I thought it was gonna be. We're right at about 60%. So the school equals 60% of the expenses for the town, and then the town, the remaining 40%. This first year, it gets a little busy in the middle there because we're moving the expenses over. Next year, that'll already be done, and you'll start fresh with that. As you see, the FY24 base budget number of $35,830,436. That'll be the starting number next year for the schools, and as will be our $23 million number. One of the things we had to do a little different this year is the schools saw an increase. The governor's first proposed budget saw a huge increase in Chapter 70 funding. Normally this budget, you see minor increases, so you take all the state revenue that comes in as far as state aid, and you would put this percentage to it, 60% for the school, 40% for the town, and just split it. Unfortunately, Chapter 70 was a huge increase. That went up by $1.8 million. You don't normally see that. That's normally a, $100,000 or $200,000 increase, so that was a huge increase. So what we did down here you'll see it in the document, and this again will be on the website, is we adjusted for that 1.8 as a one-time adjustment so the schools could see the benefit to that, because that was money was meant. This was a long time coming, 20 years in the making to, get this one-time adjustment. We didn't want to not see them benefit from it. And then the town took the remaining state aid on our side. We're comfortable with this number. Talk to the schools. When all said and done, when you take out all the bills, they'll see roughly about a $2.1 million increase on their side, which will, as they've settled in union contracts and whatnot, that'll help cover their expenses for the year, and then we'll have enough to cover our expenses on ours. And then the second page of this is just ticks and ties the numbers to the front. This has got the the state aid number from FY23. We use that number rather than the FY24 number. As I said, we made an adjustment, a one-time adjustment. You've got the net estimated revenue from the state. We are using this year, proposing to use $225,000 in ARPA money. We used $450 last year. We're going to use $225 this year, and then next year we'll use $0. We'll wean ourselves off of that as one-time, revenue sources. And then we got the local receipts at $6,100,000, and then we have to back off an allowance for abatements. So even though we bill out all the property taxes, people are going to come in and abate it. We need to allow to take some tax money off of that. And that puts our receipts at 19,240,000. And then other revenue that comes in on the town side is the cemetery lots, cemetery perpetual care, maintenance stabilization fund, moving 75,000 over. We get 48,000 from regional 911, and then the indirect cost of the town at 700,000. And obviously we'll have a detailed section in the budget for that to highlight what that number entails. And then everything balances out your FY24 total revenue estimate of 59,787,205 ties back to the number on the page before for the total FY24 document, budget document that we're working with. It was a lot of effort to do this. I mean, we can basically converting from what we did in the past, so that we had a lot of meetings with the school department, a lot of meetings with the finance team, but everybody put in a lot of effort, so I appreciate that, and the department heads as well, giving us the budget. We asked for a little more this year. You'll notice as Dylan talks about what that GFOA budget document entails, it's more work for the department heads to, highlight their departments, and, we're excited about that. So with that, I'm going to pass this off for everybody. Let me do a couple of introductions. Dylan Cook, since the fall forum, we've hired Dylan Cook. He's our new Chief Financial Officer for, town and schools. And also in the audience, we've got our in-house town counsel now, Attorney Jim Cipolletta is here. So welcome, Jim. Welcome, Dylan. And Dylan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tony. So as Tony mentioned, we're switching the way we're doing the budget format this year. So we're using the GFOA budget format. I'm just going to highlight a couple quick things that that will come out of that. So the GFOA budget helps to promote best practices in public budgeting. So as municipal budgets have developed over time, they've really turned into being a multifaceted document. So it's in part a policy document to identify the town's financial goals, objectives, and guiding policies, a financial plan where we're presenting the town's current financial conditions, stating the assumptions and projecting where things are heading based off of those assumptions, an operations guide where we're describing municipal services operations and measuring the efficiency and effectiveness of those policies, and a communication device to clearly articulate town challenges, priorities, goals, and objectives. So this new format will help to better promote and articulate those goals and objectives. It will also focus on information, transparency, and accountability. So as you'll see when we actually present the draft budget and go through the budget process, there's a lot of information. We're trying to be as transparent as we can, showing calculations and showing both sides of the equation, expenses and revenues for every department, revolving fund, enterprise fund, to really be clear. It also shows accountability as to who's responsible for what in terms of the budgeting. So as Tony alluded, it was a lot more work for the department heads this year. There is a narrative that includes the department's mission statement. So each department has developed a mission statement. It includes goals and objectives and accomplishments from the prior year. One of the other things is that it also asks for performance metrics, so some sort of graphical representation for the type of work that they do. So an example could be DPW shows the number of trees planted or the number of lane miles repaved in a graphical form, which is a nice little feature. It also standardizes the presentation, so while each department does their own budget submission, it kind of is using the same template so that we're getting each department doing their own thing, but it looks the same at the end of the day. The information, we feel one of the reasons we're doing this is the information is presented in an easier to digest format that gives a great snapshot of the town's finances. So obviously, municipal budgets are going to be quite long. It's going to be several hundred pages, but we're hoping that it provides enough quick information that you don't have to sit there and read 500 pages to get the answers you're looking for. Next slide. So in addition to the budget format change, the way we're actually showing department budgets this year will be a little bit different. So in past years, we've done it mostly via Excel spreadsheets. So this year, we're actually inputting and showing it using SoftWrite, which is our financial software. So as you can see, this is just a draft of one department, so we chose town manager's budget. So as you can see, it's got all the information you would need for all of the lines that are part of Tony's office. So you can see account numbers, basic account descriptions. It shows your FY22 expended, FY23 budget, FY23 expended. We'll stop the report showing expenditures as of March 30th, so that'll be 3/4 of the way through the year, so that should be a good representation of where we're at going through the entire budget process. And then it will show the 24 request for the department and then the town manager recommended budget, along with the delta change for dollar and percentage. I just want to highlight that the delta change on the dollar and percentage will go from the town manager recommended to the 23 budget, not the department. So it'll actually be based on what Tony is the final recommendation in terms of budget numbers.
Thank you. So that's what we have to present. Obviously, like I said, the main budget will be done, draft of it by April 13th, and then we'll present the final budget to the council on May 2nd. But I'm certainly, while we've got everybody in the room, I'm open to any questions, comments, hopes, dreams.
A wonderful presentation.
Okay.
Do we have enough money to do all these things?
As far as capital goes, like I said, no, we won't have the $2 million this year. That'll probably be closer to, $700,000 or $800,000, somewhere in that range. But, we'll have to look for other grant opportunities, but at least if we identify them, we can start making a plan to find additional funding, whether it's through free cash or outside, federal and state funds to find that money.
How else might we do that? Is it time for a property tax override? That's the ultimate question.
That'll be something we'll discuss with the council at a future date. I'm not proposing anything like that for this year, but, obviously, I think the last time this town did one was 2005 timeframe, so, we'll see what happens. But, at some point, yeah, communities do ask for that, whether it's on the town or the school side, but that's something the council will make the decision on that, and we'll see what we do in the future years. But I don't think we're not going to see one in fiscal year '24.
Okay.
All right? And to get back to your earlier point, we do have some money in the capital plan for trees, so I just want to point that out. So, thank you, yep. Anybody else? No?
And just to talk a little bit about, you had mentioned on the Chapter 70 funding for the schools.
Sure.
Now, this is something that's been ongoing for multiple decades, that they're trying to get the formula changed.
Correct.
Because they've been shortchanged for years, not the town of Winthrop in general, just the state as a whole.
Right.
So this is something that's been long coming. So that additional money, which is well-deserved for the schools, is going to where it's supposed to be going. But we're not going to be able to see that kind of an increase, in future years.
No, it took 20, 25 years to get to that, so yeah, I don't anticipate we'll see that in the future, and then it'll be the standard Chapter 70 increases. But, it all depends on who's in the, who's sitting in the governor's seat and what the priorities are and how much they fund Chapter 70. Last year, what's another line item in state aid is what they call UGA, which is unrestricted general government aid. That's the money that the town gets. Last year, we got 5.7% increase. This year, the governor's proposing 2%. Now, we've already gone to the State House, to Speaker Mariano's office, to talk to him, and as the part of the Metro Mayor's Group, to say, hey, 2% is kind of low, that you should match the state revenue number, which is, closer to 6%. The Mass Managers Association is pushing the same thing, and through, Representative Jeff Turco and Senator Lydia Edwards, we're going to put the pressure on to hopefully raise that number up as well, but we're budgeting based on the 2% for now, so.
Just on this process that we're going through tonight, and
Yep.
the capital plan that was due in February, according to the charter.
Yep.
This meeting has to happen in the month of March, but your budget doesn't have to be submitted to council until April.
Yep.
It seems like we're out of alignment in this whole process, that we're putting our horses before the wagon instead of, so I just wonder, is there any consideration on adjusting the process to make more sense, where the capital is not due 3 months before your budget, that it goes in with the budget. And also, this meeting, it should be considered to be moved after your submission of your final budget to the council.
Right.
Understanding they can make the adjustments, but your budget would be done. So be interested, since you've been here a whole year, I'd be interested in your opinion.
I would love to see that. I think we've made some efforts with the changes coming down on the charter with regard to the timing of that, Chief, so thanks for pointing that out. But yeah, I mean, this meeting would be ideally if this was April 21st rather than, March 21st. I think that would be a little bit better moving forward. I know the charter lays it out. Maybe that's something we look to change as well, because it's certainly another month we'd have the budget done, and this would be a different presentation, and you'd be going through my budget message and highlighting some of the changes and things we're looking to finance. So yeah, that would be certainly more acceptable to me, for sure. All right. And I want to thank the department heads. I mean, we talked about it, all the work they did, but, it's not dealing with a new town manager, a new management style, and, asking them to do a lot more with the budget and, working the departments as a whole. I mean, they've done a great job. It's been a fantastic, coming up on 10 months now. It'll be a year in May. I've really enjoyed my first year here. I've enjoyed working with the team. I knew coming in they were a great team, but after working with them for a year, it's only cemented that thought process. So, and in the council as well. I mean, everybody's been great. So I just want to thank everybody for that. So thank you. All right. And with that, I'll give it back to the council president.
And again, we just want to thank Tony and his team. If you look back even at last year's budget, it's, we've looked at some incredible things that have happened this year just in the world as a general, and especially in terms of utilities and such, and we budgeted in such a way that, we might be a little short on gas, which is expected, but even electricity and other utilities, we've come right on target because of the thoughtfulness that was put into this fiscal 23 budget. So, it's that kind of transparency, and to see stuff on the budget that will show, which will reflect real dollars, right? Instead of budgeted or actual, you're going to get actual numbers that are going to be right up to date up through March 30th of 2023, which gives you a really good idea when budgeting, and it brings out certain things. Like sometimes you look through, and I think Dylan said the amount of pages that are involved in the budget, and to try to look through, and this Finance Commission does an incredible job, and each of them will look through the budget literally line by line. But when you have actual numbers there that you could see what the costs have been, it gives something will stick right out to you, and you'll have a chance to question it and think about it and see if there's an opportunity to change it. And I think what we're doing with the schools and the fact that the schools have been so accepting of this it shows another thing, that we're trying again to be as transparent as possible and to show the school and the true reflection of the cost of education in our town. I think it's incredibly important, and I thank the town manager again and his team. But if there are no more questions, we will close the spring forum. And again, thank you for coming. Thank you to the department heads for all the work you do. It is truly appreciated. Take care. Good night.